Hello, and welcome to Primetime Makeover. I am Michelle Akins, one of your hosts, and I am joined by an amazing panel that includes Melissa Jackson, our life coach, and LaShondra, our therapist. And so we are here today with this episode of our podcast, and we're going to talk about change, and it's all about life in the prime time. So let's go.
Let's go. So, hey, everyone. So, as Michelle was saying, we want to just talk about change because one thing about change is that it takes a lot of process and building and rediscovering, but also change sometimes can be difficult because change requires something of us that most likely we never had to give. So when you have to give something of yourself that you never had to give, sometimes it's the fear of the unknown. Sometimes it's what I have to lose in order to change. What do I have to give up? What do I have to do now in this moment of my life in order to change? One thing about change is that it makes something different in some type of way. Change is never done without great results. But however, sometimes we are resistant to change, and that's what we want to talk about too. What are the challenges to change now that you're in this prime time of your life? What are you willing to do? And even though you know you need change, what makes it hard to change? It's needed and it's necessary, but it also can be blockers because we sometimes have formed a thought or an opinion as to what's required. Like, I don't need to do this. I just need to do that. So we try to find the shortcuts, but shortcuts never gives us the results that we're supposed to have. However, excuses will also bring not good results, but absolutely doing the change that's necessary. It's a process, but it's required because you never really understand who you are until you go through some changes and then you redefine and see that I have the capacity. I didn't even know that was in me. Change brings about some things that you didn't even know you had in yourself. So what you feel like you're resistant to can also be an opportunity to something you've never experienced before. Mm-hmm. So me and the ladies are going to talk about some things, and hopefully we know we can definitely be a blessing to you in not just changing, but understanding that change doesn't just affect you, but it affects the things that you're attached to. So ladies, I just wanted to ask a question. As we think about change, what does change mean to you personally? When you think about change, what do you feel? How does that impact, especially in this prime time of our lives?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked that, Melissa, because there's so much change happening. There's so much change happening, and just being able to, understand the areas of change, right? For me personally, there's been a lot of changes over the last few years for me, and sometimes it's disorienting, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're kind of trying to figure out where you are in the process. How far is the process going? The transitional phase of change, which is so scary because you're not it's like jumping over a mountain, right? Yes. It's like jumping over a mountain and you're kind of in the middle. You're not where you were, but you're not quite where you're going. So you're kind of dangling over this cliff. And so you're wondering if there's going to be something there that's going to catch me. That's a picture.
That's how it is.
That's how it is. That's there's a lot of fear.
Who's going to catch me?
What's going to catch me, right? What is going to catch me? And but there's a level of excitement about where I'm going as well. Yeah. So anxiety and excitement kind of shows up in the same way. They're two different sides of a coin, right? Anxiety is, that tension that you experience from the fear of the unknown, right? Yes. But excitement shows up in the same way. Yeah. And so being able to differentiate which of these things that I'm experiencing, right? Is it true fear or is it excitement about the possibilities?
Mm-hmm. There's something else on the horizon, right? Yeah. And the reason I want to change is because there's something I'm excited about. I just don't know what it takes for me to get there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the unknown part. Mm-hmm. That's as LaShondra perfectly described it, dangling on the cliff.
Dangling.
I know I don't have to jump, but it feels like I'm about to land somewhere I've never been before. Wow. Michelle, I would love to hear.
Oh, boy.
I would love to hear.
And see, for me, you really summed it up because when I think about change, I think I'm going to have to do some work.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's what the work looks like and sounds like. It is at times like when we want to do something new, it is that there's a cliff. It's like preparing to jump off a cliff. And you don't know if you're going to fly or crash.
Yes.
And so that whole idea of change, but here's something else I think about change is in order to change, we have to become the next version of ourselves. When people say, well, I want to write a book, I hear it all the time. Oh, I got a book in my spirit. I was like, no, that looks like gas. But, I got a book in my spirit. Yeah.
Take some gas.
I love y'all.
But in order to change, you have to become the person who writes a book. That means you need to write.
Yes.
That means you have to discipline
process,
yourself.
yes.
You can't just, ooh, goose pimples, I'm writing a book. No, you have to become the person who does that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why change to me means work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think, right, to get to the point of change, you have to be uncomfortable
Yes.
where
That's what
you
it's
are.
about.
There's a
Yeah.
certain amount of discomfort that you're experiencing.
Oh,
You will
my
have
goodness.
to.
Where you are to prompt the change, right? To even contemplate it, right?
right.
There's something that's not working for you. There's something that's not serving you where you are. And you have to think about, okay, can I continue in this vein?
Yeah.
Or do I need to do something different?
Yes.
Not even want, like, do I need to do something different?
Yes.
And so that discomfort is the thing that propels you into change. Now, it can't sustain you.
Right.
It can't sustain
It can't
you.
sustain you.
But it's going.
But it's going to propel you into that state of change.
Yeah, and that is so good because even in that, like you said, not knowing that we're going to be uncomfortable, sometimes when we know that and we have the fear of the unknown, we could become resistant to it. But I just want us to keep in mind, even though we have some excitement, we have some anxiousness, being resistant to change will keep you in some unproductive patterns, right? Some unproductive cycles. And then you're wondering why things are not changing. It's because you're resistant to what needs to happen. Because as we just said, it's necessary. Because as life goes on, nobody stays in the same place that they were in their 20s now that they're in their 50s. What's required now versus then required change. You had to adjust to where you're going. When COVID came, whether you wanted to change or not, you had to change. We had no option because either we change or we get stuck or we get stagnant or we don't know, or the anxiety and the frustration becomes even the more. So when we think about that, change is a process. One thing I keep in mind is that you have to recognize, I think both of you ladies said, where you are. It's a moment of understanding, okay, there's an awareness. Where is my heart? Where is my mind at in this moment? Because this leads us to our next question, though, thinking about that, what's required? How do we know when it's time for a certain change in our lives? There's so much going on, and sometimes we're changing based on what we see others doing. Sometimes we're not changing because of what we feel or what's uncomfortable to us or what we know that's required for this next version or this book I'm about to release. Sometimes we're changing because my sister changing and she doing something different. So, okay, I'm going to try that. And then it don't look like, or you don't get the results that your sister had because your process, your formula to change can be different. But what does that look like? How do we know when it's time for us to shift?
That's a good question because so much of us in our prime time, right? Like we are, conditioned we're conditioned to see ourselves in a certain light.
Yeah.
And so change in that, not seeing ourselves in that certain light, is very scary, as we all kind of said, but I like to think of, thinking about the pain, right? So there's a discomfort that makes you want to change. But then if the pain of staying the same does not exceed the pain of change, then you're not going to do it.
Yep. Wow. That's a wrap.
There's a pain staying where I am. But that has to be greater than the pain that I might experience if I change. And so when I'm looking at my landscape of the people around me change, systemic changes, right? Like there are things that are outside their control that cause you to change, right? You know, the death of a loved one or sickness of parents or your children having struggles like that pushes you into things, right? But you can resist it. Yeah. Right, because you can try to stay in that same spot.
Ignore it.
You can try to ignore it. You can try all the mental gymnastics, right? But there's a pain that's going to come. It's like keeping on a pair of shoes that don't fit any longer. Yeah. You can try to keep wearing those shoes.
Painful.
Ooh, but the blisters in the corns, you know what I mean? The blisters in the corns will be like, okay, now we got to retire these. We got to do something different. Like, this is not serving me anymore. And that's the question. Like, how is me staying in this place serving me at this moment of my life?
Wow. That's good.
And you know what? And when you talked about the blisters and the coins, the blisters and the corns, they hurt, but they also prevent forward movement.
Yes.
And when I think about change, especially in prime time, how often do we find women who look back and say, wow, when I was in my 20s, this wasn't a problem. Or when I was in my 30s, you know, I was better at this, what have you. And so even looking at how you view yourself at the different points in your life requires change. Because if I keep elevating my 30-year-old self, and just for the record, I don't want to be 30 nothing ever again. Am I looking in the camera? Okay. But if we keep elevating our past over the possibilities that we have in our future, we do a disservice to who God is creating us to be today and going forward. Yes. So it's necessary, but it's got to be intentional.
Intentional. Necessary and intentional. And how many times, I would be honest, have I tried to change the past more than trying to change me as an individual?
Yes.
Because sometimes I feel that if I can go back and try to change the past, that'll help me to my core, help me as a person. So then I have these blockers, as I call blockers to change. That fear, LaShondra, I think, was speaking about that stagnation. You know, the lack of my identity, that right there will keep me in cycles and resistant to change because I don't even know who I am. So sometimes I don't even know I need a change because I've lived my life based on what I see and what others are doing. But to what you ladies just said, there comes a point when you realize that pain of where you are and the pain of whatever it's going to take to get me to where I'm at, it's always greater. Because I've already seen what this pain has done.
Right.
The fear of the unknown, but I know that change is going to bring a greater result. So even if I don't know what's going to happen, I know that it's going to work for me.
Ooh, but you know what? Now, I want to ask, though, sometimes we become so accustomed to the pain of not changing. We adapt to it. We don't even realize we're in pain. You know, what was it? There's some cartoon characters and constantly getting banged on the head. And they didn't even realize they were in pain until they stopped getting banged. Wow. How many of us, the pain of staying where we are has become acceptable? Yes. It's working.
It's our life.
It's really not, but it's a pain that we've made ourselves become accustomed to.
Because it becomes a noble cause.
Ooh.
It becomes noble.
Did Sister Jones just come back?
She's here.
Sister Jones,
we have a heart for Sister Jones. She's near and
Jones is alive and well, right?
And she gonna change
before we done.
Taking that pain becomes a noble cause, right?
Yes.
And if we're not careful, you know, we will marry it to, you know, our beliefs.
Yes.
As Christians, right?
That's what we'll try. Yep.
It's a suffering way. You know, I don't know how many times we heard that.
The rough side of the mountain.
Yeah.
It's the rough side.
Yeah.
So we become, this noble cause now becomes the thing that we elevate. Ooh. Yeah. We elevate this noble cause of suffering and just grinning and bearing it and taking it because, you know, it has some value, it has some worth, it has some merit, you know, and so we don't We don't. We adapt to the change. You know, we move all around the change. You know, we do everything except that without understanding that, you know, it's okay for us to not live in that space.
Yes.
It's okay for us to do something different. It's okay, even with the fear, even with the trepidation, even with the reluctance, even with the ignorance, right?
Right.
We don't
Yes.
know. We don't know. We don't know. We think that it's all going to be bad. But we never overthink in the positive.
No.
What would
That's
happen
good.
if we overthought
That's
in the
good.
positive? What
Yes.
would happen?
This could really work out well.
That was a two snap right
That,
there.
yes.
Yes.
What
if
would
we
happen
overthought.
if we
Yeah.
overthought in the positive?
Yeah.
That something greater is on the other side of this.
And why do we often, to your point,
Greetings. Coming to you from Eclectic Artistry Boutique. My name is Etrenda Freeway. I am a creator, fashion designer, and owner of a boutique in Flossmoor, Illinois, 3309 Valma Road. So I came on here just to get on here. Let's talk a little bit about fashion, right? We love fashion, right? Women over 50, we want to know what to do, what should we do, what shouldn't we do. So I just came to give you a few of my fashion tips, right? So we have those women who are not quite certain, uncertain, maybe not a visionary. So I'm an artist, I'm a visionary. So I say dress up, get fabulous. It's okay. If you on your way to an interview or you meeting a group of women you've never met before, confidence speak volume. So whatever you put on, make sure you're confident about it. Make sure when you enter the room, it speaks to the audience. So even if you're a little reserved, it's okay. But the recommendation is to live out loud a little bit. You can start gentle. Those that may be a little reserved, you could do something different. Layering is always a good thing. Always makes things beautiful, and it just brings out. So fashion is art, right? So we are what we wear. So I speak to confidence. So get amongst those beautiful women. Go on that job interview confident. Wear you a nice, classy outfit. Today, things have changed. So you could put on a nice business suit. You could put on a fashionable tie. There are so many different ways and forms of fashion you can wear. But fashion is fun. Fashion is exciting. Fashion is an expression, and it's an expression of who you are. And some individuals and women are not as confident. So it's about building your confidence, because when we look good, we feel good, right? So if you getting again against a group of women that you've never been before, I say the best thing is to be yourself. Show up and show up ready. Always, when you enter the room, it should speak volumes. So let's dive into this. Let's get fun and let's start.
your point, not think in the overthought or the overthinking of the positive, but we can consistently overthink in the negative.
Because we prepare ourselves for disappointment.
Abandonment.
You become accustomed to preparing yourself for disappointment. And when disappointment shows up, I think it's one of the greatest emotions to overcome. Because disappointment means that you were in a vulnerable space where there was hope that something would happen. And then that hope got destroyed.
Yes.
And so it's hard to recover from disappointment. It's hard to think about, there's nothing going to be there to catch me if I fall.
It's the hope deferred making the heart sick.
Yeah.
And some of us have sick hearts. And as you talked about, we've made it noble. We've made this cause so noble. That's who we are.
Yeah.
That's our identity. So what would happen to me if I started to think positive? I'd have to be somebody else. And I'm not sure I can be somebody else.
Wow. And then thinking different and with that noble cause, sometimes we're afraid of how it would affect those that we are attached to. Yes. Change sometimes it's only hard because it's not even so much as we don't want it. How is that going to affect the people that has become codependency on me not changing, or me staying in unproductive patterns, or me staying in stagnation, or me not living out to the best of my ability? So it's like sometimes I know I want to change, but if I change, I'm afraid of how Michelle may react. I'm afraid of how LaShondra may react to me. So change sometimes is not just about what I don't want. It's because what I don't want it to affect the people that I'm attached to. So the pain of what it's already serving, my obligation to them becomes greater than my legacy, because change affects my legacy.
Ooh, yes, the legacy.
You want to tag it?
Yeah,
You wanna tag it?
I'm there. I'm there. Yes. Because I'm there.
Wow.
Like personally, I'm there,
That's
and I'm
good.
thinking about things like that, like my legacy. What do I get to leave behind? How do people? One of the exercises that I always like to think about is like, what are people gonna say at my funeral? That's one of my favorite exercises, because now it prompts me to live so that those things are true.
That's good.
I don't want somebody to come to my funeral lying,
Yes.
trying to say I was this person that I wasn't. So if those things are not, if I'm looking at my life and those things are not true about me, if I was being eulogized, what would that say? And so now I got to line up with what I want people to have said about me, especially those that I'm leaving behind, my legacy, right? What am I getting? And so that's prompting me to change, because all of nature tells us that things are changing, right? The seasons change. Your natural body changes, right?
Yes.
You're not a 7-pound, 3-ounce baby anymore.
That's
like
right.
everything about your life is showing you that you have changed.
All of it.
Everything is changing, right? And so
Everything
that
is
legacy
changing.
piece that you talked about, Melissa, is so important, because it is going to affect the people, especially the ones that I love the most.
That's
Yes.
right.
The ones that I love the most.
Good. That's so good. Because that change is going to impact them. And sometimes, if we be honest, we don't always see when we change how it will affect, or if it's affecting, or what it's doing. Sometimes we see it later on, or to your point, after we've transitioned, and we don't get a chance to see it, but now our children or our grandchildren are impacted, or the people, like you said, that we were close to or loved the most. So it's so necessary. And if we can talk about being selfish, that's why sometimes you have to consider yourself before considering everyone else, because somebody needs your change. And I think, to what LaShondra said, if you think about it in that moment or in that matter, that somebody is waiting for you to change so their life can begin. That's a lot, but somebody has to change so I can know how to think differently. So I can have a moment to sit with my sisters and talk about change. That's what it took for us. Michelle.
And you know what? I'm thinking about the noble person. And if you want to adopt some nobility, how about thinking about legacy? That word. What will you leave? What will you leave? I was at a funeral earlier, and somebody was talking to a person who was transitioning about their legacy, and the woman said, "Legacy is what you leave. It's not me here now. It's what I
remains.
leave." And so when we talk about that nobility, the nobility of coming up the rough side of the mountain, and of being in pain and living in pain and all of that, what about the legacy of showing somebody courage to change or freedom? What might that look like for our children and our children's children?
Our community, those we worship with, those we interact with at work, because we have some of the crazies, and God bless them. But how would my change affect those? But one last question, because I know sometimes y'all hear us talking about change, and sometimes you're probably wondering, now, what was the last change they had to make? They trying to tell us how to change, but are they changing in their lives? So just for a few seconds, what is the last change you had to make, and how did it impact the people in your life, LaShondra?
Whew. Okay. So again, like I said, my life is full of change right now. Full of change in every dimension. In every dimension. But I think what helped me to make the changes, or starting to make the changes, is reconnecting, okay, with the dreams that I have. Reconnecting with, who I was before, life happened. There's the saying, life is lifing, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But there was something underneath that. And so when I'm thinking about this next phase of my life, because I've understood that life is seasonal, right? Right? And me making changes now is about the legacy. It is about, showing something differently and not seeing the change that I'm making as a burden. Right? Because you can, when you're thinking about other people, now I got to do something else.
Yeah. Another thing to add
As
to it.
another thing that I have to do, to kind of help somebody process it. But I'm seeing it as legacy. I'm seeing it as an example. I'm seeing it as what is possible. I'm seeing it as like being able to come into another version of myself that I am excited to see. I'm excited to see this version of myself. I'm excited to see what it looks like when I'm free to move about the country.
That part. This is why change is necessary. You get to freely move.
That freedom that comes with change, right?
Yes.
Like it's not restrictive.
Right.
We have to see change as freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Freedom of
That's good.
choice, freedom of movement, and freedom of position.
And the freedom I want to add is the freedom to be fully me. See, from the time we are little people, we are shaped into who somebody thinks we should be.
Yes.
But as we come into this prime of our life, you talking about a change, I am a grandmother now. And let me tell you, and people would say, oh, grandchildren, they changed your life. I was like, whatever. But they do. Because knowing that this is part of my legacy, we've sold our house, we're moving, because we're
Change.
embracing the next phase of our lives, which is not just, we are not less than we were.
Right.
We are embracing more. And that is what change does. It says, I'm not minimizing myself for somebody else's comfort, even if that somebody is me.
Yes.
And so being able to embrace the more and to move into the next phase, not knowing, dangling over a cliff,
Literally.
but also like Buzz Lightyear, flying with style.
To infinity and beyond.
Not just here. But here. That is so good. And I guess one last thought we can leave, and I would just say for me, is change it's I'm like LaShondra, it's always happening because life is always doing something that you've never expected. One great change I would say that I've had to make was being married at a very young age and becoming a widow at the same time at a very young age. So sometimes change will knock you on your knees, or put you on your knees, or knock you on the floor, and you don't have a choice but to change. And some change, as I will always say, progress it shouldn't be negotiable. But in that process of my life, I didn't have a choice. So there's going to be some moments you're going to have to change, and you don't have other options. Because now you have to be the sole provider. Now you have to be the mom that has to take care of everything. So change always remind me that you just can't invest in yourself, but you also have to invest into the things that will build your legacy, that will build your connections, that will build your friendships, because it's not just about you, but progress is about not just the present moment, but the future moment. Yeah. And this is why change is necessary. It's not an option. So we hope from what we've said today, any last thoughts, ladies?
Girl, no.
Okay.
Last thought.
See, we're changing. We just changed this. That's right there. But I tell you, we're doing it all the time. But we hope this has blessed you, and we hope that you will not neglect or resist or put any blockers there. Because remember, change is not just for you, but it's for your legacy. Till next time, take care. don't stop changing. Bye-bye.
Wow. How y'all feel?
Progress is
Girl! You are a natural!
Yeah, because y'all sitting here.
Sean!
I got my right in my left.
I think the next time you're going to do both episodes.